Season 3 of the Castlevania Netflix series has finally aired for fans of the games and animated series alike. Taking the longest to be produced thus far, the new season strays from the two previous seasons in that it doesn't glean quite as much from the games that the show has been based off of, and goes its own route with the plot and presents a story that is more original. Still, being Castlevania, the animators and writers still managed to throw some bits of lore and Easter eggs from the games into the story of Season 3, and though fewer than the previous seasons, is still a treat to see. So here are the history tidbits and so on that you can expect to see in Season 3. Of course, spoilers from here on out. As I pointed out in my Season 2 video, that season decided to give us a familiar team-up from the games in the form of Slogra and Gaibon. In the very first episode of Season 3, the show decided to follow up on that duel with another iconic one in the form of the werewolf and minotaur. Originally, both creatures were individual bosses first encountered in Castlevania Rondo of Blood. However, in that game's sequel, Symphony of the Night, the two were given their own team-up against Alucard in the Colosseum. Much like Slogra and Gaibon, you can see them as normal enemies later in the game in the Inverted Castle. In the shopkeeper's store that Isaac wanders into looking for a teleportation mirror, one of the first things you see is a large Easter Island statue, otherwise known as a Moai Head. The Moai Head has a history with Konami, being seen in many of their key franchise games. The Moai Head makes its first appearance in the original NES Castlevania game as a special power-up worth a whopping 4,000 points, the most in the game. It also makes a cameo in Castlevania Dawn of Sorrow in the form of the Bat Boss, Bat Company, as well as being found as a sellable item in Castlevania Curse of Darkness. Saint Germain is introduced nearly first thing in Season 3, and through the season, we learn that he is an immortal gentleman and magician who has traveled the world, seeking wisdom and information of ages in pursuit of an entrance to the Infinite Corridor to recover a lost loved one stuck within it. He holds a vast amount of knowledge of alchemy, science, and famous individuals, including Dracula and the Belmonts, and, apparently, toilet paper.
What the fuck is toilet paper?
It's Chinese. Good morning, Judge.
Much of this can be taken from his character in Castlevania Curse of Darkness, where he makes his first appearance in the video games as a time traveler who knows the past and the future and hopes to connect instances in the timeline that might diverge from the destiny tied to Count Dracula. This Saint Germain, also a gentleman and knowledgeable person who is also hinted to being immortal, though he has no connection to the Infinite Corridor, but rather with a group of so-called Time Watchers who keep track of the fate of the timelines, which puts him in brief conflict with Hector in Curse of Darkness, when it's suggested Hector's pursuit of Isaac might disrupt the timeline. The Saint Germain of the games and the animated series both take aspects of the historical character of Saint Germain, who was an occultist and philosopher who claimed to be immortal. Curiously, the animated series incarnation also wears an hourglass symbol around his chest, though has yet to show any time manipulation abilities like he does in the games. The Infinite Corridor is a gateway between multi-dimensional planes of existence that seem to phase in and out of connection with our own. In the animated series, it's presented as a route to many worlds, and suggests that hell itself is simply one of the planes of existence the corridor is able to open a portal to. Indeed, the portals are few and individuals need special attunement to be able to even know where one is. In the game Castlevania Curse of Darkness, the Infinite Corridor is itself simply an alternate realm, rather than just a doorway to several realms, and is accessible through an area in Dracula's castle alone. The corridor also acts as a prison that the Belmonts happen to seal Dracula's castle away in after Dracula's curse, somehow. In the last 2 episodes of the season, we get bombarded with a whole mess of unique monsters that first debuted in Castlevania Symphony of the Night, showing artist and director Samuel Dietz's love of sneaking Symphony of the Night references wherever he could. During Isaac's assault on the Magician's Tower, the enthralled populace of the town are summoned into a gigantic orb composed of their bodies to act as a final defense against the Forge Master. The construct is meant to represent Legion, also known as Granfaloon, which in Symphony of the Night was a boss found in the catacombs, composed of a monstrous nucleus surrounded by naked corpses. Similarly, during the final battle between Trevor, Sypha, and Saint Germain against the Corridor demon, the Infinite Corridor summons forth a cadre of monsters found in Symphony, including the Hellfire Beast, Cthulhu, mistakenly called Malachi in Symphony of the Night, who even summons his Void Ball attack. The odd monster out would be what appears to be Boor, which didn't make its appearance until Castlevania Eye of Sorrow. This is totally just a little Easter egg that was carefully hidden by the art team. When Saint Germain begins looking through the books in the Priory for ancient knowledge, there's a little blink and you'll miss it instance of a drawing of food in one of the pages. One of those items is roast chicken. Longtime Castlevania fans will know this as the longtime health item found in breakable walls, starting in the original Castlevania and persisting through the series, lending to its nickname, Wall Meat. A hidden surprise in a tome that used to be in a bookcase in a wall. You know, it's funny. Most of us didn't want Castlevania Erotic Violence, the game. And yet, here we have Castlevania Erotic Violence, the animated series. Who'da thunk it? So, with Castlevania Season 3, we see less references to the lore of the video games and only a smattering of Easter eggs, which is disappointing as a fan of the series. Still, presumably a fourth season will be on its way shortly enough, and with it, a chance for the series to turn more towards its video game roots, and with any luck, have some more connections to be made between the animation and the games.